Yeah. So dude, I hate to start with this, but I saw, and this will probably, you probably already like, I don't know, probably kicking ass in your training, ready to get your world record back. But I saw somebody broke your mile time, I think, in Deca mile.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I wasn't too happy about that.
Which
Just
I don't think
most
anyone would ever break that because I mean 17. What was your record? 1740 or something like that?
17:48 was my time, which I didn't really know how much faster was even possible in something like that. I think I believed that I could go under 17:30, but then when I saw Ryland hit low 17, I was just honestly my first reaction was there's no way.
Yeah.
I was very kind of pessimistic about the whole thing, which really isn't my kind of attitude typically, but I was just kind of like I knew what it took to do 17:40 something. The amount of time that I've been evolving my fitness kind of for something like that. And then for somebody, a great athlete like Ryland, but doesn't have much experience in the hybrid space. So for him to come in and do that, I think my initial reaction was like, there's no way that's possible. And I like I started looking at flights to go to Utah to where he did his Deca mile because I'm like, man, I'm going to that gym and I'm gonna go get
Yeah.
my record back.
Go do the
So
quarter mile, which is really what it is.
yeah. No, Ryland's a great athlete. I think he's coming to West Palm, and I'm really looking forward to racing him and just seeing. That's the thing with these affiliates. They put on these events, and every setup is, the concept is the same, but every setup is a little bit differently. But I think him and I are very similar in a lot of ways, and I think it's going to be a good battle. I don't expect to win by like a minute or 90 seconds like I did in Chicago. I think these guys are coming for me, and um, that kind of keeps me hungry. It keeps the
Mm.
training exciting, and knowing that like you may be on top now, but somebody's always trying to come for your spot.
Yeah, dude. You're talking to the number 7 Deca mile in the world, which a blistering 20-minute Deca mile is what I
That's
put
solid,
down.
man.
But dude, 17, anything under 20. I mean, I went to the pain cave in a really deep and disturbing way to hit 20, at least in my head. And I can't even fathom, like, your time alone was enough to like blow my mind. And now I'm like, wait a second, someone actually beat that. Like, I never thought that record would fall. It's just absolutely insane.
Yeah, it's super fast, and I've broken 18 twice, and both times that I did it, I had two completely different kind of race strategies. Whereas the first time I went 17:54, and I really managed my effort from start to finish. Like I never over revved at any point. It was almost like if you had an hourglass and you flipped it upside down, and right when that race ends is right when the hourglass runs out. Like you
Mm.
managed your effort perfectly. And then the second time I did it, where I went a few seconds faster, it was almost like I used the like an interstate analogy. Like when the first race I did, it was almost like I set it on cruise control and I was just going down the highway at like a nice even pace. And then the second time I did it, it was almost like driving through the city where I was like punching the gas and then backing off, punching the gas and backing off. And it was a more painful way to do it, but I was able to improve my time by a couple seconds. Um, so yeah, it was two completely different ways to go about the race and kind of the same result in the end. So it kind of makes me wonder because my training going into each one of those Deca miles was a little bit different. The latter one was most recent. I was focusing a lot on like CrossFit style metcons,
Mm.
just high intensity, functional fitness. And then the first Deca mile I did under 18. It was more I was training for Hyrox, and I basically just went in with my Hyrox fitness and did the Deca mile. Um, so yeah, it was just like two completely different experiences.
Yeah. When you say manage your energy, I know a lot of people are like, well, how do I do that? Because, they get into these races and they're like, dude, I mean, I just did a Deca fit in Jersey this past weekend. It's like, you're feeling great. And then you hit like, I don't know, the ski or something. and you're just like, all management goes out the window. You're
Right.
like,
I
all right,
mean,
I'm
it's
dying.
something, right, right. And you have to tinker with it in training. Like you need to know, you need to find a pace where you can do those box jump step overs at an efficient but not an exhausting pace. And the same with the rower. You know, those earlier stations, you have to fight the urge to push um, early on. And I think most people have difficulty doing that. Maybe they just don't have a ton of experience and just these type of events. But it's something you have to play with in training. I know what paces for literally every zone I can do while also keeping my heart rate at a manageable effort. And I know if I speed up a little bit on any zone, it's going to probably tip me over. And it's all practice, man. I mean, it's just like anything else. It's just practice.
Yeah. So early on in your athletic career, what sports did you play? I mean, I know you're out in Denver now. Did you start out in Denver?
Yeah.
Like, have you always been at altitude?
No. I was born in Virginia.
Oh, really?
Um,
What part of
yeah,
Virginia?
like Norfolk, Virginia Beach, the
What?
Hampton Roads
That's where
area.
I'm from, man. Yeah, I was born in
Really?
Virginia Beach too. Yeah, I lived all over the world, but I was born in Virginia Beach and I went to high school in Virginia Beach.
What high school did you go to?
Kellum.
Oh, crazy,
Where
crazy.
did you go to high school there too?
I was over on the peninsula.
Oh, okay.
I went
Okay.
I went to Tab High School.
Yeah, I know Tab. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, that's crazy. I had no idea. I thought you were a Midwestern guy.
Nah, man, I was spent my whole life pretty much in Virginia, but once I got into my professional kind of Spartan race career, I decided to move away and relocate to a place that was more conducive for training, mountains, altitude. So I moved out west back in like the early 2010s kind of timeline, and I've just
Nice.
been just been out west ever since. I make my way back to Virginia every now and again, but yeah, Colorado's home now.
Dude, that's so cool. I'm in Northern Virginia now. We're going to Virginia Beach though this weekend. That's funny because it's my mom's birthday at the time of this podcast anyway. But yeah, that's crazy. I had no idea.
Yeah. And I grew up, if to answer your question, I grew up doing like all sports. I mean, I played soccer, basketball, football, tennis, like everything. But my dad was, when I was young, it was right when like road racing, like 5Ks and stuff were like taking off in the 80s and stuff, like 80s, like early 90s. Like my dad was doing all these, half marathon and marathon races. And then they'd always have like a 5K fun run or a 1 mile fun run for like the little kids to do. So that was kind of where my whole athletic career started, was like age 4, age 5, going with my dad to these like road races and doing, the little 5K fun runs.
Hmm.
And then with my dad being a runner, I kind of gravitated towards that, obviously, because it was something that we did together growing up. Like I remember being age 5, 6, 7, just like going on runs with my dad, like through the neighborhoods. And
That's
um,
awesome.
yeah. And then before I was born, my dad was really into bodybuilding. He was actually Mr. Virginia back in like the 70s.
Whoa.
Um, my dad was just like ripped, jacked, like had just an incredible physique. And then he got into or not bodybuilding. He got into arm wrestling and became a world champion in arm wrestling. This was all before I was born. But
Hmm.
that strength piece, that it kind of makes sense why I love doing strength training, is I think it's just in my blood.
Hmm.
Like my dad did it. And then when I was born, he was into running, so I got into running. So it's crazy that now there's a sport where these two worlds can kind of exist together, because I think in the past you've almost had to choose one or the other. Like you either got to go be a runner, or you're going to go be a gym rat.
Hmm.
But I think the cool thing with hybrid racing is you can you can do both. Like why set limitations upon yourself? Why be like, oh, I'm too big to be a good runner, or vice versa in the gym. So that's kind of where my fitness journey started, and it's just been evolving like literally my entire life. um
That's interesting. Yeah,
yeah.
because I know a lot of guys, and I think especially like a guy like me was heavy into bodybuilding for a while. And now is like, I enjoy athletics, but kind of like you said, you always think like, well, I have to be a full-time runner if I want to do these things really well, right? If I want to go
Mhm.
compete, I'd have to basically lose all my muscle, go run, miles and miles and miles. And like, that's just the whole idea, at least initially. But then they create things like this. Even Spartan races, I would say, give you more of a chance to be a hybrid type of athlete
Yeah.
that gets to do the best of both worlds. But that's interesting because a lot of the guys I know or I've talked to in the sport come from like a heavy run background, like cross country, heavy into marathons, that kind of stuff. It sounds like you were more diverse in what you started with.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was more diverse, but it early on it definitely favored the running side. Um, that was my identity growing up. Teenager, high school, and then went on a college scholarship for running, ran
Oh,
track and
really?
field and cross country.
Oh,
Yeah,
awesome. Okay.
so it was you know big time like runner focused. Um, it wasn't until after college that I kind of really started like dabbling more into just like the bodybuilding and powerlifting stuff. I started asking my dad some stuff about training and how to get just like super jacked and ripped, and um, found out that I really, because when I was a kid and my dad had a full on, we had a garage. I've got my garage with all my equipment, but growing up, my dad also had a garage full of iron, and I'd go in there and play around, but I never really did any lifting. It was just kind of like there, and if I just wanted to pick something up, I could go pick it up. But it wasn't until after college where I really started like trying to get super strong, and found out that I actually had like a passion for just like hypertrophy training. Like I liked the way it made me feel. I obviously liked the way it made me look. But there was always a piece of me that loved doing cardio too. So, even when I was doing a ton of bodybuilding work, I was still going for a couple runs every week. Um, no event on the calendar because hybrid racing didn't even exist at the time. So, um, really was just doing that for a couple years, and that was when someone told me about Spartan Race, and they were like, "Yo, man, like you got to try this obstacle race thing, man. Like you're already a great runner, and now you're in the gym lifting weights. Like this could be perfect for you." And yeah, one of my buddies told me about it, and 2 weeks later, I went and did the wintergreen Spartan race, which is like, have you done that one?
I've never done the
Or
wintergreen one.
no.
No.
Okay, so it's one of the top three, probably most difficult Spartan courses. And I'm from the flatlands in Virginia, so here I am thinking I'm going to go in and kick everyone's butt, and went and did my first Spartan race, and honestly got my tail waxed. But I knew I could be good if I focused on it, and that's what I did. I went all in on Spartan race, and eventually made my way onto the Spartan Pro team and was traveling around the world doing Spartan races. But it started to lose kind of its juice for me, like after a while, because it really, and I can't fault them. This is just how I feel. It started going more towards just like being a good runner. Like if you went and ran and then went to a rock climbing gym like twice a week, that's really the type of fitness for an obstacle racer. They don't
Yeah.
need to be doing freaking power cleans or um, things of that nature. So I found like all my trainings, just I was doing so much running, and I was getting so exhausted doing the same stuff like every single week. And it wasn't until 2019, like right before COVID hit, where this whole new sport kind of came from the ashes. Uh, it was right after Spartan World Championships in 2019. Somebody told me that this company Hyrox was putting on an event in Miami, and I was like, okay, like what is that? And I looked more into it, and it was like, okay, you're gonna run 1,000 meters, and then you're gonna go do a fitness station, and you're gonna repeat that for a total of 8 times. And I'm like, and it's like indoors, and I'm like, man, this is this is freaking sweet. Like this is
Yeah.
kind of what I've been looking for all along. So basically, yeah, like right when COVID hit, that first year was a little funky, just because the whole world was didn't really know what was going to happen. But ever since then, it's taken off, and um, it's allowed my whole like I don't know, like I was just burnt out on OCR, and
Mm.
this whole new sport has rejuvenated my spirit and my love for competing and training, and I think just because it really like I love going on a trail run and I love going to the gym like equally. I don't really like one more than the other. Um, so the fact that I don't have to give up, one or the other with hybrid training is just super exciting. Like I'm never bored with training. Um, I feel like I'm always training something new just because, I mean, if you look at Deka Fit, you've got 10 zones and then you've got the run. That's 11 things you need to work on.
Yep.
If you look at Hyrox, you've got 8 fitness zones plus the run. That's 9 things you need to work on. So um, it's not just like going for a run and then going to the rock climbing gym. Like there's just so many things to work on and try to get better at, and it's just super exciting, man. And I honestly feel, I'm sure you feel the same way, man. It's like, why couldn't this sport come around when I was like 17, 18
Right.
years old? Because now I'm in my mid 30s, and it's like there's a shelf life here on how far I can really push this thing. But I feel good right now, and I think maybe as I get older, I didn't think that this would ever be something that motivated me to keep at it. But I think that I want to try to be like an example for just like older people that like, if you're in your 40s, like you can still freaking be a badass athlete. People talk about retirement, and it's like, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to retire because I just love it too much. There might come a time when I do it at a less competitive level, but waking up every day and either going for a run or lifting weights or combining the two together, like that's just embedded in who I am. And I don't think even if you took the competition off the table that I would stop, waking up every day to train. So, I think I'm going to set like a goal that like at age 50, I'm going to get on like a Deca Fit podium or something like that. Um, so
At
we'll
age
see, man.
60, man. 60, you still be up there.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. It's super fun right now, and I'm loving. I spent most of this past year training for Hyrox World Championships, and it kind of ran me into the dirt a little bit. And it's been fun to totally shift my focus to like Deca Fit for a couple months. A similar event, but actually very, very differently, and how you would go about training for something like that. So I really think the two companies, like, yeah, they're in competition against one another, but I think they complement one another also like really, really well.
I agree. Yeah. And I think what you said really is going to resonate with a lot of people who listen to our show because I'm in my late 30s and I have, two boys, ages 8 and 6. And, life starts to, get really busy. But you still have that, drive to, especially if you're like a former athlete or, like every guy needs an adventure, right? Like every guy needs something to get them out of bed to go and chase physically, I think in the, in their day to day, even if they won't admit it, like there's that piece of you that just needs that, like just that adventure. And, I think you being a dad too, cause you have a young son, right? How old's your son?
Yeah. He's 19 months, so a little over 1.5.
Yeah, so you're like in the
Yeah.
thick of things, man. Like,
Yeah.
so you have a full-time career, not to mention you're a full-time athlete. You're married, you have a young kid, like, yeah, and you're in your third, mid 30s, like, you're the shining example of what's possible, maybe at an elite level, but like, there's no reason that you have to like quit on pursuing a new goal, right? Or a new physical challenge. This is like, these are opportunities now for guys like us who want to keep the juice going as long as we can, drink from the fountain of youth as long as possible. these are the arenas that we get to do it in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And I had a lady yesterday send me an Instagram message. I don't know if she'll listen to this podcast, but she sent me a message. It was in kind of my hidden folder, and I opened it up and read it. And it basically said that there was no way that I could have a full-time career and be as high a level athlete as I am. She's like, there's no way. There's no way. And I just responded. I was like, why not? Like, why is this so foreign to you that like you can have a full-time job and a family and still compete and at a very high level? Yeah, the fact that she thought it was just like this impossible thing. I'm like, is that really what the world kind of views? Like once you have your family and your job, like all of a sudden you can't chase other things, like I don't know, for me it's just like I don't even think about it. Like I wake up every day before everyone else is awake and I get in, my training because I enjoy it and it's what I want to do. Um, but yeah, it just got me thinking. I'm like, man, is this kind of how everyone, not everyone, but a majority of people think, where, they kind of think maybe they're chasing dreams and chasing goals and things like that is over once you get a little older and you start your family and you get your career. But I don't think it has to be that way. And, if I can be an example for somebody, I'm happy to be that. I will say it's not easy. Like there are days when I am just I'm stressed out, man. Like I've never dealt with just like stress or anxiety. Like really, like I mean, I guess there were like little signs there, growing up, but it never was to the point where I couldn't just deal with whatever I was dealing with. But in this kind of 3-year stretch where I have been balancing, all of these different things, I've noticed like stress levels increase exponentially. There's some anxiety there, and it's hard. Like it is hard. Like this is not if this is something you choose to do, it's not going to be an easy path. There's going to be good days. There's going to be bad days. You're going to probably feel sleepy sometimes. But it's doable, it's doable. And if it's important to you, like you'll make time for it. So,
Yeah, I'm curious to know because I think there are a lot of people out there who put self-limiting beliefs on themselves, and a lot of it is because they look around and they see, environment as everything, and they see other people who have given up on these goals or don't even contemplate the notion that it's possible, and they just adopt that similar belief, just like anything else, like just the standard, way of living is what they should fall in line and do. But I'm curious to know, like, how do you do it? Because like you have a lot
yeah.
going on. I'd love to hear, and I know everybody else would love to hear, like, what is a day in the life of someone like yourself to be able to perform on all fronts, right? Like as a dad, as a husband, as a full-time guy who's now starting, and we haven't even talked about it yet, but starting to coach other people to get them to do this stuff. And also be the best at what you do. Like you're the best Deka fit and potentially one of the best. I mean, you are one of the best Hyrox and Spartan racers out there. So like, how does it all work?
Um, it's I guess it's a little, I don't, I'd say it's pretty easy, but the truth is it's actually pretty complicated. I stay extremely organized with just like my schedule. Every week I, either write it out or type it in my notes, kind of literally what I have to do every single day. From the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed, I kind of have, yeah, just what I need to get done, either written down on paper or written in my phone somewhere. So I know kind of what tasks I have to do like each day. And that kind of keeps me organized, keeps me straight. Um, but one thing, when our son was born, one thing I told my wife is that I didn't want my training, if this was something I was still going to do at a high level, I didn't want my training to kind of get in the way of like family. So it was very important to me that I do my training at a time that just like wouldn't take priority over hanging out with my little boy. So the only way to do that was to wake up pretty much before everyone's awake. I typically during the week, I'm up around 4:35, and I basically have until about 7:30 every morning to just do whatever I need to do. If that's a 10-mile run and some bicep curls afterwards or something, like I have that morning window where I'm going to get everything I need to get done. Whereas in the past, I've maybe I'll go for my run in the morning and then at night I'll go back to the gym or something like that. Now it just kind of gets done at one time. So that's been super helpful. But then yeah, once my workout's done, it's you know hang out with Basin for a little bit if he's up. Try to get some good quality time in with him before I go to work around like 9 is typically when I go to work. So, once I go into work, I never really know what each day is going to bring as a UPS driver. There might be days when you get off at a normal time, 5 o'clock, but it's not one of those normal jobs where, you clock out at 5 o'clock, like every single day. It's pretty much whenever your truck is empty. If it's a heavy load that day, you might be out till 8, 9 o'clock at night, and you've just had a freaking 12-hour day on top of all the training you did before you even went into work. So you come home that night and you're pretty much exhausted, right? But now you have to, just be a dad and be a husband and just wear many different caps, like for me, when I'm training, I'm like so focused on just training. I'm not thinking about anything else. But the moment I walk into the house, it's almost like I take that athlete cap off and put on my family man hat, and just being able to compartmentalize like the different you know like parts of your day, I guess, for lack of a better term, um, and not to be thinking about like, oh, like I've got this workout to do on Tuesday. Um, when you're like trying to spend time with your family, just really try to be in present and like whatever you're doing, do what you need to do, and then move on to the next thing. And it's been a work in progress. I'd say the first 6 months to a year, we're just trying to find that routine, right? That just works best. And I think I've gotten to the point where you know I've got it dialed in a little bit. Typically on my weekends, I like to go and get into the mountains and run some good trails, and that's when I'll bring the family out. We bought like a big backpack where we can put the baby in it. He can come hiking with us too. So finding ways to kind of integrate your family into your training too, I found has like been super helpful. That way, if you try to scoot away for a couple hours to go for a run in the mountains, and then you come home and you've been gone half the day, like that's not cool. So
Mm.
yeah, just trying to find ways to structure your training in a way that maybe you can kind of get your family involved too. And yeah, everybody's going to be a little bit different, but I think I found what works best for me.
How important would you say is spousal support and buy-in to what you're doing? Because, I'm married, my wife's not obsessed with races like I am. She loves
No,
fitness.
no,
She
no.
loves working out, right? But she likes it for like health. I just want to be healthy, look good, the standard like, stuff. But she looks at me like I'm a crazy person, with all these races. She loves it. She loves watching it. She likes, supporting me. But, how important though is it to have the buy-in from your spouse?
It's huge. Like it's so huge because I mean the reality of the situation is she's gonna have to pick up more slack. Um, if this is like something I'm gonna pursue, like this isn't some like even 50-50 kind of deal. There might be days where I take more of the workload and she takes a little bit less. But she's just been Sarah, my wife. She's been phenomenal. I think one thing she recognizes is that doing this training, racing, it makes me happy. Like it just like it's she knows that I'm a better father, I'm a better husband, I'm better at literally everything if I'm able to get my training in every day and know that I have a goal on the table. So she knows that if she were to try to try to take that away from me, that I'm just not going to be the best version of myself. And then she also knows that I'm not going to be able to I'm not going to be able to compete at the level that I'm at forever. So she sort of just has to put up with me doing this until kind of I start declining a little bit. But yeah, this isn't competing at a super high level, might not be something I'm going to do forever. So she just wants me to really kind of push the limits and see what's possible during this time where I am still pretty young and I'm fit. Um, and I think she wants to see kind of, what I'm capable of too. So she's been phenomenal. I understand that there might be a lot of relationships out there that, don't have that, same support as I do. And I guess it just makes me feel grateful. And I try to let her know all the time. I mean, even coming out here and doing this podcast with you, like she's in there, looking after Basin. And but she knows that this is kind of what comes with the territory right now. And it's been good, man. It's been good. It hasn't like honestly, I think our relationship has actually gotten stronger through this process, trying to balancing everything, because we're always communicating with each other about like, oh, you're doing this, or I'll do that, So it's actually been a cool way for us to kind of bond on a different level.
Yeah, I love what you said about like she realizes this is what brings out the best in you, in all fronts. I think that, spouses, men or women, tend to, get on board when they see, we're naturally, I mean, in a good way, selfish isn't a bad word when you use it in this context where, part of being in a relationship is like, hey, what do I get out of being with this person? Right. And you get the best of them. Well, what gets them at that best state? I think about that with my wife all the time. Like, if I send her out for like not send her out, like I'm letting her out, but like supporting her, I'm going to out myself here on my own podcast. But supporting her going and doing like a girls' dinner or like a spa with the girls or whatever it is that recharges her batteries.
Yep.
We're nuts. Like when we say, oh yeah, going and doing a Deka mile or a Deka fit recharges my batteries, people might look at you like you have two heads, right? Like, what are you talking about? Like, aren't you exhausted? It's like, no, I literally feel alive after that. Like I literally am in the best mood possible after I go and spend 30 minutes, huffing and puffing and trying to convince myself not to quit, like it's the best. So that's incredible that she realizes that, because I think that's oftentimes a missing piece in any transformation process for someone who's trying to get more into fitness, period, is, they worry about their spouse buy-in, but when their spouse sees how great of a person you become or how much you level up because of fitness, man, it changes their perspective on things, which is tremendous. So I want to put on your coaching hat for a second, if you don't mind, because I know, oh yeah, if you,
where are you going?
she heard you talking about her.
Yeah, I know. Were your ears ringing? Yeah. I was saying how great of a supporter you are. Yeah. She's getting ready to go on a walk with our son.
Dude, we can't even make it up. It's like literally happening right in front of us.
I know.
People think we're BSing. Well, there you go. So I know we've discussed offline, you starting to help people with doing these hybrid events. I think it's phenomenal. I mean, you're the best at it, so you should be sharing your knowledge. So I'd love to put on your coaching hat for a minute. And I want to talk about how to get ready for these type of events, right? Like if you're, working out and you go, yeah, it sounds cool. I kind of want to test the waters, right? I want to jump into some of these things. They look fun. What would be a starting plan for someone who's trying to get into these races, these hybrid style events?
Like, what were we talking about? Like beginner?
So yeah, I think if we look at the demographic of someone of like a typical person who does these type of events or wants to jump into them, personally, I think it's usually someone who maybe has been working out for a period of time. They've maybe lost some weight and they get to a point where they're like, okay, I've gotten in a little better shape, but I've never tested my body. I don't know, what I'm capable of now. could I go out and do something like this? And they kind of, they wonder. And so they want to get at least enough ready for it to where they don't jump in and like, pull a hamstring or do something to sabotage their whole routine. But how would you start working with someone like that to get them prepared for, I guess we start with Deka Fit. That's probably I think the best one for people to start with.
I would say just like not really having any expectations in your first event, just like maybe finding a friend to go and do this with and just kind of test the waters a little bit. As you know, the components of Deka Fit it's not CrossFit, right? Like there's not these complicated movements that you have to do. I mean, a 4-year-old could go do a Deka Fit. That's just the reality of the situation. But depending on your fitness level, I mean, you could go walk. You could walk the whole thing and be done in 90 minutes. Like this isn't. It's not something that's gonna take a ton of time. You're not gonna get dirty, muddy, cut up, or anything along those lines. But if you wanted to take that step into just like trying to progress, there's obviously going to have to be some sort of structure in your training. The advanced to elite athlete is obviously going to have a much different, structure versus like the beginner athlete. Whereas like maybe the elite athlete he's just going to be specific to the event. And maybe the beginner, we just get them comfortable with moving through space, going, even if they just want to do a mile walk jog every day and then come back and do a few burpees or just something to kind of just get them moving and get them going. And you can slowly implement, the components of the race, over time. But I think in the beginning that you should just get them comfortable with just exercising. It doesn't have to be this complicated, structured program. Maybe it could evolve into something, but I think in the beginning, it's just like let's get them moving, let's get them doing some exercises, nothing too complicated. Build up their confidence. Maybe plug in some little tests in there that make them feel like they are getting better, and it's worth keeping on. And then just see where it goes from there. It doesn't need to be this super complicated thing if they don't want it to be. So yeah, like I said, if you're looking to get started in a Deka Fit competition and maybe your experience in fitness is like 0, like that's okay. Like we'll get you started. We'll go for a walk around the block and then we'll come back in and we'll do some sit-ups and push-ups and eventually you'll get to where, you're doing reverse lunges, and box jump step overs and all this kind of stuff. But, we can take this from the ground level and really build it into a skyscraper if you want it to be.
I love that, dude. I think that's phenomenal coaching and direction, especially because I think when people look at anything that is a relatively large task that maybe they haven't done before, it feels like they got to need an elephant, right? It's like, how am I ever going to tackle this thing? How am I going to climb what to them might feel like Mount Everest? But literally it's just one foot in front of the other. Yeah. one bite at a time. I mean, I love to walk around the block, come back and do some crunches. Like to me, it's like, dude, that feels so accessible, but it's very relatable to those events too, right? Where that's what you're going to be doing. You're going to take a walk or a jog or maybe a run at some point around, and then you're going to come back and you're going to do some sit-ups, and then you're going to do something else. Yeah. Like that makes so much sense. So I know a lot of guys, and I'll speak for myself, selfishly, I'll pick your brain. I think the big thing that people get intimidated by with these events is the running, especially I have no running background besides sprints. I sprinted for football, I sprinted for baseball, and that was it. That was like my running. So, over the years, similar to you, I got into Spartan, and I somehow lucked my way into a top 3 placing my first ever Spartan race. I have no idea. I probably just ran on a day where nobody ran. It was just pure luck. And then the next time I got my butt kicked like royally. But I've fallen in love with it. But now I've realized, my biggest weakness is not the stations. My stations, that's my wheelhouse. That's where I thrive. That's my strength. But the running, that's where I either do okay or just completely sabotage the race. Right. So how do you coach someone into becoming a better runner? What's your take on improving running, period?
Well, I mean, it's gonna obviously start with the fundamentals. We're not gonna do any exciting workouts that you might think you're going to be doing, at least not in the beginning. Science and running has taught us that you have to spend a time doing nothing but easy running to basically just evolve your aerobic system. Um, some people, like myself, I've spent my entire life building my aerobic system. So somebody who's just coming into this, it's not going to be like, I mean, you're going to see potential gains, but like this is a constantly evolving thing. And, we need to take it step by step by step. And the first step in becoming a better runner is to just, is just running at an easy pace. And when I say easy, this needs to be something where like you and I could go out for a jog and we could have a full on conversation while we're doing it. And you need to spend some time doing that. You might get that urge to just like, let's go to the track and rip some 400s or something like that. But if we want to follow the appropriate steps and kind of evolving your running ability, there has to be that time where what we like to call the base phase, where we're just building our aerobic engine. And that could mean running every day. That could mean running every other day. That could mean running twice a week. Wherever you're at is where we can start. But you really just have to go through the steps, and the spicy fun stuff comes a little bit later. But the cool thing about Deka Fit is, there are these other components to it as well. So like running is important, but doing, strength and Metcon stuff is almost equally important. I mean, if you look at Deka Fit, I'm going to use my time as an example. In Chicago, I did 29, I think 40 something was my time. 18 minutes of that was running, and about 11 was station work. So it's a little skewed. How do you say that word?
Skewed, yeah.
skewed to the running side, right? Just by a little bit. I'd say it's maybe 60-40, 65-35, depending on the individual. So, if you're trying to improve your running while also getting better at, something like a Deka Fit, the first thing is kind of get an idea of how long each one's going to take you. And then kind of cater your training around something like that. So like, for example, a Deka mile totally flip-flops. Whereas like in Deka Fit, the running is kind of 60-40, but then, you get into a Deka mile and it's almost like 70-30 station work to run time. So training for a Deka mile would be slightly different than, somebody training for a Deka Fit. But yeah, man, I mean, it's a complicated sport because you do need to improve your running. You do need to get good at doing the zones, but then you also have to find a way to blend the two together at some point. And, a lot of people might have the ingredients on, how to do this, but it's how you put the ingredients in, right? Like if you do one before the other, like the whole meal gets messed up. So it's putting everything in at the right place and the right time. And if running only is something you want to get better at, maybe go find a run coach. I will say, the coaching that I'm going to offer is going to be strictly hybrid hybrid focused. This is, Deka Strong, Deka Mile, Deka Fit, and Hyrox. Those four things. If you want to do a Spartan race, and you reach out to me, I can point you in the right direction and get you in touch with somebody. If you want to become a better runner, just running, I can put you in contact with somebody that can help you in that arena. But what I really want to focus on is that hybrid athlete who wants to go for a run, but also wants to lift some weights and do some other fun kind of spicy things where we maybe blend the two together. That's what I'm going to be focusing on is just trying to create more well-rounded athletes and individuals, and just trying to let people know that the world's kind of put us in this box of like you kind of have to be one or the other, right? And I want to let people know that, and I'm not the only one. There's tons of people. There's Hyrox, there's DecaFit. These events are coming out, letting us know that like, hey, we value being well-rounded. We value somebody who has endurance. We value somebody who has strength. And that's just super exciting. And I'm thankful that a sport like this exists because it really kind of identifies with who I am as a person. And I think I'm just at the point in my life and in my career where I'm ready to kind of share all the knowledge that I've built up from a little boy until now, and all the resources I've had over the years, and some of the things maybe I do a little bit differently than others, and just trying to find a way to really just give back to the community and share all the stuff that I've been fortunate enough to experience, and just share that with others. And I'm super excited about it, man. Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I think
The
the
web,
sport of high. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, no, go ahead. I'm gonna let you go first.
Yeah, I was just my thought was like we're at the precipice of this new wave that I think will be a permanent wave. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I think that hybrid style fitness, personally, if I'm just, speaking freely, I think it's the best form of fitness because if you look at every, and not to knock on anything, I've done bodybuilding, I've done individual sports, there's a lot of different cool stuff out there. But usually what you find, and I found this with Spartan, I love Spartan. I'll always jump into a couple Spartans a year for fun, but you start to realize that you're missing something, and not just missing something mentally, but like literally for me, like I stopped strength training enough when I was doing Spartan. Like you said, I was just trying to run like all the time, and I started getting hurt probably because my running form is subpar. But I realized, man, my strength is starting to suffer. And then with things like bodybuilding, my heart health wasn't as great as it should be. I couldn't go run a mile without being like completely out of breath. I'm like, that's insane. Like that's something that every man should be able to do, at least in my opinion. So with this, I went and got my health markers checked recently, and my doctor was like, what have you been doing? Because this is literally, according to your history, the healthiest you've ever been. And I'm like, well, I started doing this hybrid stuff. I run a little bit, strength a little bit, then I do some recovery, and it all kind of flows together, and it's the best, and I think that just for that reason alone, like this stuff is going to really catch on in a huge way. We haven't even seen, because of COVID, because of other factors, we haven't even seen this completely take over, which I think it will. So you being the best at your sport, you're totally right. You have to give back. You got to share with us your knowledge,
Yeah, and I think the cool thing with hybrid racing too is if you look at DecaFit and you look at Hyrox, nothing in there is like there's no movement or exercise that's likely going to get you hurt, right? Whereas in CrossFit, there are some movements where if you don't have years and years of experience, like you go throw up a barbell snatch or something like that, you might pull something, right? So the simplicity of this stuff, it's just you're lunging, you're pushing, you're pulling. It's just this basic fundamental movements that literally everyone can do. And I was watching. I don't know if you saw that Hyrox documentary that
I
got
did.
put
Yeah,
out.
you were in it. That was awesome.
I was, yeah. And damn, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, I read some of the comments on YouTube. Right, I kind of wanted to see what viewers thought of it, if they thought it was a good product. I've obviously got my opinion. I thought it was good. I thought they were trying to explain a little bit too much, kind of in that documentary. But overall, I thought it was a good product. But somebody in the comments was saying like, "Oh, so this is CrossFit. Basically, you stole CrossFit." And I was just thinking, I don't have a YouTube account, so I can't like comment or anything like that. But I was just thinking in my head, I'm like, go bring a CrossFitter into this
Mhm.
hybrid arena. And you ask Matt Frazier, you ask Justin Medeiros, you ask Tia Claire Toomey if this is CrossFit. And I promise you they will say it's nothing like CrossFit. It's a completely different arena. And I think a lot of people think that the hybrid space is it's like, oh, it's basically CrossFit, but with more running. It's not like that at all. Like it's completely different. And I think it's cool. And I think all of us can evolve and exist in this fitness space together.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's just kind of my thoughts on it.
It's so important though, in the same token, to appreciate comments like that, because it clues us in on how the general, public, or even some of the general fitness crew, perceives this stuff, right? And perception is reality for people. So it's vital for someone like yourself, at least in my opinion, to continue to lead from the front and be vocal about what this is and what this isn't, right? Because I think, just truth be told, I think CrossFit did a lot for fitness in the sense that it opened up people's eyes to other modalities, how to combine things, not always safely, in my opinion. I mean, it's definitely an advanced sport at its highest level, just like most sports. But what this is first of all, it's not CrossFit, but it does bring in some of the excitement that maybe CrossFit started to bring in, right? It does bring in some of the eye-opening or mind expansion that comes from combining different fitness modalities, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I think when people say that, what they're really saying, in my opinion, is like, oh, this is something that's out of my comfort zone. Right? Because they're like, oh, it's just CrossFit. Like, oh, I can't do CrossFit, or CrossFit's
Right.
too crazy, too hardcore, and it's just their internal voice being like, dude, you can't do that. So what this to me does is like say, hey, this is like, once again, an opportunity to get more people in to experience this. Because I've brought clients, like I brought in Chicago, I brought a bunch of clients to do the race. And, afterwards they were like, where do I sign up for the next one? Like everybody, they were addicted, because it is that accessible for, even just the everyday person who maybe goes to the gym. Like it's totally something that anybody, even my kids, as soon as I start doing kid events, like I'm totally getting my boys into it. I mean, this is like
Yeah.
literally, I want my kids to do Deka fit right now. Like I think they could totally do
Yeah.
it. So I know you got limited time, man. So I appreciate you doing this. The last thing I want to wrap up with, and I only ask champions in their sport this question, right? Because I've interviewed UFC champion Frankie Edgar. I've interviewed Medal of Honor winner Dakota Meyer, and I always want to know, what is your mindset when you go into your arena, right? When you step on that starting line and you're going after whatever your next, level is in your focus, like in your head. What is your mindset like? What does it feel like to be in the mind of someone who is winning these things all the time? Like, what does that feel like?
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't want to make it seem like I do win all the time. I have taken many L's in my
I've never
life.
seen you lose a deck of fit, but we'll just
I am undefeated. I am undefeated in Deka Fit, but um, I did lose the Hyrox World Championships earlier this year, which really really kind of put me in a bad way for a little bit, just because I had sacrificed a lot to get ready for that race, and it was win or bust in my opinion. Even though I'm going against Hunter, I had beaten Hunter in Chicago, so confidence was obviously super high, but um, I caught that L, and it's for me, it's sometimes you do need to lose, right? To kind of keep that fire burning, that stoke going. And I've always used people, this has been something that's evolved since I was a kid. I've always had people doubt me, saying I can't do things. You're too lazy. Like you're this, you're that. And believe it or not, like even in school, like I've had teachers to be like, not come out and basically say I'm dumb or I'm stupid, but just like, yeah, like, I don't know. It's just, I've had people just say things over the course of my life that have really kind of propelled me to just really keep at it. And, when I'm on the start line at an event, I can't lie and say that some of those thoughts over the years don't creep up in my mind. And I'm like, what, this is your opportunity right here to prove everybody wrong. Like this is it, man. Like you've worked your butt off. Now it's time to go out and do this damn thing. And you know, another cool thing about this sport is I'm sure it's with a lot of sports. We're all friends. And when you're lining up on a start line and you're just a freaking lion ready to go, but you got your buddy next to you, you got, Nick Riker, I've got, Rich Ryan, I've got Glenn Race, these other superstar athletes who, I could go and have a beer with and shoot the shit, but now I'm trying to rip their head off. And it's interesting because, you want to have that competitive drive to just like run them into the ground, but at the same time, you're like, man, this guy's kind of my friend. Um, so yeah, just being able to find a way to flip that switch, I think has been just like super important for me. Like knowing, when I'm on the line with Hunter and Rich and some of these other great, phenomenal athletes, it's like, when you step on that line, it's time to go to war. I don't know if you've ever seen me. Sometimes I freaking take my hand out. I'm just slapping myself in the face, just being like, dude, like game face. Let's freaking go. Like, a couple face slaps, kind of, get into the zone um, and then go at it. But, you know, never am I on the line, just kind of like, oh, like let's see how this thing goes. Like it's like, no, I'm gonna go grab this thing by the horns and I'm gonna control this race. I'm the best athlete here. I'm gonna make them do what I want them to do. And there's no malicious like intent to that mentality. It's just like I'm gonna do whatever I need to do to beat you. That's within obviously the rules. I'm not gonna go push anybody off the course or trip anyone, but um, yeah, I mean, it's just you have to be a killer, right? Like you can't. There might be that anomaly, out there who is just like the most friendliest, kindest person at the line, and he's also super dominant. But more times than not, like you need a little arrogance to you. You need a little cockiness, something that just is really going to make you feel like you can do anything. And I get a lot of my confidence just through my training. Um, if I've had a good training block and I line up on that start line, it's a wrap, man. Like I already know. I'm like, I got this. But if training hasn't gone really according to plan, then that's when those doubts kind of can creep in at the start line, and you might think like, man, am I ready for this? Oh, I didn't. Oh, I got sick that one week and missed those two workouts I'd really really would have liked to have done. And hello, okay. Um, so yeah, there's those doubts will creep in if you haven't done the right training, but more times than not, you know, training, I never skip a day. Even if I'm feeling like crap, I typically always try to get it in, even if it's not going to be kind of to the standard I want it to be. So yeah, a lot of my confidence and um, just like mentality towards it really just comes from the training that I do. And yeah.
Love it, man. What's your next big target? I know you said West Palm. Are you doing the World Championships in Atlantic City?
Yeah. I'll be in West Palm next weekend. Gonna try to set a new record there. Training's been going good. I had this heel thing pop up after Chicago. I didn't know if it was like plantar fasciitis or kind of what it was, but I had to buy like super cushiony shoes just to be able to go for a run.
Hmm.
Um, and it hasn't like hindered me really at all. I've been able to do everything I need to do, but it's just been kind of in the back of my mind where I have to be like, okay, like if I'm going to the track, I'd really like to put on my race shoes and do some good stuff, but maybe I leave on my big clunky Hokas and do it just to, protect that foot. And but I'm feeling good, feeling fit for that. And then I will take a little downtime in September, just to kind of reset. And then I think in October is when I'll start ramping up again for the World Championships, the Deka Fit World Championships in November. Um, which should be super fun, man. I'm super excited about that, and I don't know if I have anything else popping up. There's a few little things. There's like a Spartan Stadium that I might dip into, but we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, that's kind of what's next on the horizon.
Awesome. Yeah. Just don't do the Deca Mile Championships because I still want to have like a top 5 shot.
I'm going for the Triple Crown, baby.
I knew you'd say that. Damn it.
Yeah, it's. I'm finding that it's actually, if you are somebody who's wanting to train for Deca Strong, Deca Mile, and Deca Fit at the same time, I'm more than willing to help someone in that particular situation because I'm in it myself,
Mm,
and it's interesting. You have to put your training block. You have to design it in a way that is just, there's just so many different moving pieces, because it's different when you get that run break in between the zones. It's different when you get a 500 versus 160, and then there's obviously a difference when you don't get any and you're going from station to station to station. So being able to train these basically 3 different races at the same time, it's super fun, and it's always exciting to train for. And um, I think I have a chance. I think I have a chance. There's some really great guys out there doing the Deca Strong that have beaten my times for sure. But we'll see what happens come World Championships. And again, I know we talked about the coaching thing. If you guys wanted to check that out, go to trainmorehybrid.com, is the
love that.
official website. We had a couple different names that we wanted to go with, and one of them was actually, he wanted to charge us like $1,000 to like take his name that he had, which was kind of unfortunate. But yeah, trainmorehybrid.com is kind of where you can go and check it out. The website is a work in progress, but you can still kind of go on there and see what we offer, and see if it's a good fit for you.
If you dropped the top 10 like race prep tips from Ryan Kent or something like that and gave it away for free, you'd probably have, 1,000 people raise their hand and say, hey, I need to learn more from you like immediately. So just keep that in mind, because I can already tell we're gonna have a lot of people lining up to work with the best, man. Trainmorehybrid.com. Okay, I'm on it because I am determined
You know what? Hey,
to get better.
you know what was funny is we wanted trainhybrid.com, but it was already taken. There was another name too that we really liked, but Train Hybrid was taken. So we had to come up with something else. And the more that I kind of, am warming up to the Train More Hybrid, I sort of feel like it pushed us in that direction. And it honestly makes more sense, right? Because
Yeah.
like, we're not saying just like train hybrid. We're just saying like, come train more hybrid. We're not forcing it upon anybody. It's, if you are a runner, if you are somebody who goes to the gym, but you're kind of avoiding one or the other, well, we invite you to come train more hybrid, where we're going to do a little bit of both and have a lot of fun doing it. So,
Dude, I think the name is literally perfect, especially for, people out there who are just kind of exploring this, or this just came across their radar. People never want to be told what to do, right? They want to be encouraged and shown different paths. And I think it's the perfect segue into opening up, new avenues for people to experience fitness. Just a little more hybrid training, and you'll be, it'll be something in your bag of tools that you can pull from, whenever you want to do these races. And I think it's perfect, man. It's, yeah, train hybrid is too intimidating.
Right.
Train more hybrid is like, oh yeah, okay, I can do a little more hybrid work.
Yeah,
You
for
know,
sure.
absolutely. I love it, dude. The marketer in me is like super pumped about that. That's awesome. Cool. So trainmorehybrid.com, and West Palm is your next race, and then Atlantic City. And are you doing Hyrox in New York or no?
I think maybe Chicago, not New York, but I think
Okay.
I'm warming up to Chicago. It's kind of like my last big effort before Deka Fit World Championships.
Beautiful, man. Well, I'll probably catch you then in a couple of those. I might do Hyrox Chicago, and I'm definitely doing World Championships in Atlantic City for the Deka Mile, and we'll see if I can get another qualification. But yeah, man, it'll be awesome. I'm
Cool.
super pumped, dude. Thanks so much for doing this, bro. Like you are,
Yeah, man.
you're a stud, man. Really enjoy your content and really enjoy watching you race. I will say I've done a lot of film study on you to learn how to do these things better. It's helped me tremendously with form and all that stuff, man. So appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me. It's been a good time.
Awesome. I'm going to stop the record.